Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Almost a week after it began, the meltdown at a Soviet nuclear plant today was still burning. An entire zone around the plant is too dangerously radioactive for anyone to enter. The Soviets confirmed that they are using helicopters to, in effect, bomb the zone with lead, sand, and the element boron, trying to put out the fire, absorb neutrons, and at least slow the spread of radioactivity. Water reservoirs in the area have been, Moscow now confirms, contaminated. Our reports begin with David Martin in Washington.
Soviet ships arriving in West Germany today showed measurable signs of radioactivity. Traffic coming from Eastern Europe was backed up for miles. Citizens in some European countries were warned not to drink fresh milk, and farmers were told to keep their cows inside as governments tried to cope with the fallout from the radioactive cloud which now covers much of Europe. A senior Soviet official told German TV today the area around Chernobyl is still too dangerously radioactive to enter, and that local reservoirs are contaminated. Boris Yeltsin blamed the accident on, quote, human error. In Washington, U.S. officials gave their first public assessment of just how much radiation the Chernobyl meltdown released into the atmosphere.
We would think there probably were life-threatening doses within the first several miles during the major release, and significant health effects out to 5 or 7.
This 1965 footage of an out-of-control nuclear reactor shows what a violent accident it can be. Exactly how many people would have been in lethal range of the Chernobyl accident depends on whether workers were evacuated before or after the meltdown occurred on Saturday. A meltdown which officials now believe was caused by a loss of electrical power to the pumps which provide the coolant to the nuclear core. This is the best and most recent commercial satellite picture of the Chernobyl reactor. Sources who have seen a photograph taken by a U.S. spy satellite this morning say the surrounding communities look like ghost towns and that vapor or steam is still rising from the plant, indicating that the reactor is smoldering but no longer belching clouds of radioactive smoke. U.S. officials say the worst of the radiation release is over, but the State Department is warning some Americans to stay away from Poland. There was a special White House meeting today to review what is known about the Chernobyl disaster, and afterwards, Vice President Bush expressed frustration at how little the Soviets are revealing.
It is unconscionable, and with this tragedy there, that they are not coming forth in a new spirit of frankness and openness.
U.S. officials investigating the accident are now less skeptical about Soviet claims that only 2 were killed and 18 injured. But these officials insist that no matter what the final casualty count, Chernobyl will go down as the worst nuclear reactor accident in history. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
Emphasizing accurate numbers on the number of dead, ill, and or threatened people from the nuclear meltdown, still kept secret by Moscow. For Soviet television viewers, the top story tonight on the government-controlled evening news was a nuclear story, but it was about how Moscow intends to resume nuclear weapons testing to keep up with the West. About events in Chernobyl, there was nothing. Not only was the story not the lead, there simply was nothing except life as normal folks' pictures from areas nearby and heaps of criticism for the West for making such a fuss. Wyatt Andrews is in Moscow.
What amounted to a propaganda offensive began with subtlety. 20 Ukrainian folk dancing groups enjoying themselves. The location near Kiev, 80 miles from the accident. A farm collective now planting crops in a town 30 to 50 miles from the accident. A lovely sunny day, a worker says. The pictures show an outdoor mealtime and the daycare center nearby for the children. Then the payoff. Legitimate interviews with students who thought their evacuations unnecessary.
I wanted to stay until the last moment.
I didn't want to leave Kiev at all in the first place. I wish I was there now.
Combined with this, an interview with 2 Englishmen who said their tour guide forced them to evacuate the Eastern Soviet Union because of the accident and was now forcing them to leave Moscow.
And then we had to leave Moscow immediately.
This was designed for internal consumption. The message, these scenes of calm, then these hysterical foreigners fleeing all that calm. The accident itself was never mentioned except to say that that's what the foreigners were spreading false reports about. And in the midst of this imagery, the story the Soviets did not tell, again, was the story of what happened, of what the radiation levels are. What the Soviets are saying is that if they are dancing in the Ukraine and eating in fields near the accident, the rest of the world should take on faith that all is well. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Moscow.
An American doctor today became one of the very few outsiders to be let into the Soviet Union to help the dying. Susan Spencer reports it will not be easy.
American transplant experts responded to the Soviets' plea for help, trying very hard to sound hopeful.
What we're trying to do is to catch them before they have bone marrow failure.
But the major problem for any kind of medical treatment in this bizarre situation is the overall uncertainty about the accident.
Because we have no starting point. We know what levels of radiation are being received, but we still don't know fully the nature and extent of the disaster in the Ukraine itself.
Bone marrow transplants can help restore radiation victims' immune system, but this situation is unusually tricky. Successful transplants require exact matches, usually from relatives. But in the Ukraine, relatives may be victims too. And many exposed may not even be candidates. For those who were too close to the plant, it's too late. For anyone who has absorbed radioactive particles in the bones or thyroid, it's pointless.
The radioactive material is still there, and they're still constantly getting irradiation, so that the irradiation procedure isn't over yet for them.
Worldwide, only about 2,500 of these complex operations are done each year. The Soviets are not known ever to have done even one.
We are not aware of the Russians having any significant bone marrow transplantation program in people in their country.
They probably have to transport the patient out from Russia to somewhere in Europe or United States.
Under ideal circumstances, up to 70% of all bone marrow transplants do work. But these are far from ideal circumstances, and it may be unrealistic to expect that large numbers of people can be saved by transplants. Susan Spencer, CBS News, Washington.
All this great food.
It's for the party. And a fresh box of Arm & Hammer baking soda keeps everything fresh.
Another box in the freezer?
Keeps ice cream from tasting funny. And the new calendar reminds us to change every 3 months. Isn't it time for a fresh box?
Great party, Louise. I can still smell it.
Terry, we need Arm & Hammer carpet deodorizer. 3 times more odor-destroying ingredient than ordinary brands. They sit on top. Arm & Hammer penetrates to destroy deep-down odors.
Home room's fresh.
Work better, longer, cost less, too.
Mom, send $500 soon, or there won't be a honeymoon.
I'm calling about your son, Jerome. Better send money. He wants to go home.
早く送ってくれないか。スピード違反でパクられた。
To send someone money fast, come to Western Union. We'll make sure it gets to any of our 10,000 locations, usually in 15 minutes or less.
Sayonara.
Western Union, the fastest way to send money.
A CBS News poll taken over the past 2 days finds more than half of the Americans questioned say they believe a Chernobyl-type nuclear accident is likely to happen sometime in this country. What's more, 44% indicated they are worried the Soviet accident fallout will somehow affect them, despite assurances officially to the contrary. 695 people were polled by telephone. The poll's margin of error is plus or minus 4 percentage points. One other possibly interesting poll result, 59% said they are against building any more nuclear power plants. That's even higher than the disapproval for building new atomic power plants found in polling right after the 1979 accident at Pennsylvania's 3 Mile Island plant. 3 Mile Island was 7 years ago. Now there is Chernobyl. Now there is worldwide criticism of Soviet silence. Not only silence at home, but for the people in the path of the radiation flow over other countries. How does that compare to the flow of information here in the hours and days that followed the accident at TMI? Hours after the worst nuclear accident in the United States began, 3 Mile Island company officials said not to worry.
We may have some minor fuel damage, but we don't believe at this point that it's extensive. The radiation levels at the site boundary are really only 1/10 of the general emergency level where we normally get concerned.
But the plant wasn't operating normally. Radiation was being leaked. The risk of a meltdown was real. Things were out of full control, and company officials knew it. So reported a later President's Commission. No surprise to people on scene at the time.
If it's serious, they're not truthfully going to come out and tell you because they'll start a panic.
situation is more complex than the company first led us to believe.
This is only a precautionary measure.
It was state government that finally told some local residents to get out of town. Unlike Chernobyl, nobody died here, but bad information scared people. The utility insists it played it straight. But people dispute that and still ask, did the utility outright lie? Congressman Jim Weaver headed a subcommittee that looked into the accident.
Well, they wanted to cover it up. There was no question. They didn't want the facts out, and if they didn't know the facts, they always put the best construction on it. It wasn't really a problem.
People don't like to get blamed for things, so they tend to underplay the problem.
2 nuclear accidents, and apparently 2 similar failures to make early, full disclosures to the public.
We had the same thing happening with our officials as the Soviet Union does.
The same thing, perhaps, with one enormous difference.
Of course, that's one of the aspects of a free and open society. It's very difficult to keep something from the eventual view of the public. In the Soviet Union, they're making every effort to do that on a concerted basis.
At the time of the 3 Mile Island accident, Soviet officials suggested that greedy capitalism was the cause. For that reason, the Soviets said then no such accident could ever occur in their state-run nuclear power plants.
There's a special kind of Cadillac, the new 1986 Seville, the ultimate Cadillac. Very new, very sophisticated, with road manners to match. You could call the 1986 Seville the new essence of elegance. Best of all, it's a Cadillac.
When you buy a pair of Corning prescription lenses that change, it's like getting free light tints, free medium tints, dark tints, and a whole range of free sunglasses. Corning lenses. When you're buying eyeglasses, these are the ones to buy.
The only thing worse than daytime heartburn is nighttime heartburn. Fortunately, there's Gaviscon antacid. Gaviscon gives fast daytime relief and even works at night when you're lying down. Gaviscon antacid.
The Labor Department today reported this nation's civilian unemployment rate eased 0.1% in April down to 7.1%. The report said booms in the construction and service industries helped create 270,000 jobs last month. But the battered oil and high-tech sectors hit hard at states like Texas, where 39,000 people lost their jobs in April. Martha Teichner reports tonight the toll of jobless Texans rose again today, and it's argued that American jobs are lost in order to save American jobs.
For 16 years, Hortensia Bustamante has been a seamstress for the Farrah Company, a large clothing manufacturer. She is typical of 1,000 workers who are losing their jobs beginning this week. Female, raising 5 children by herself on $6 an hour. Her job is not going across the Pacific to Taiwan or Korea. It is going across the river to Juarez, Mexico, less than 10 miles away, where Mexican women do the same work for $3 a day, the minimum wage in Mexico. Farrah joins a who's who of big U.S. companies with plants in Mexico, 183 in Juarez alone, employing 83,000 workers, double the number in 1981. Clustered along the border, almost 600 other plants, representing more than 120,000 jobs that not so long ago belonged to American workers.
I believe very strongly in sharing, but not taking the food out of your own family to feed the neighbor. I think that is wrong.
But American manufacturers say that maquila plants, as their Mexican border factories are called, actually save some American jobs because they are assembly operations only. Components made in the United States are shipped across the border, put together by Mexicans, and then trucked back for finishing.
It preserves a maximum number of U.S. jobs, as opposed to buying fabric and trim and doing the assembly work and the labeling and all the rest of it completely overseas. We're able to limit the amount of overseas work to a small amount.
Made in the USA.
Ask for the Made in the USA label.
because it does matter. But it matters to American consumers only if the price is right. So chances are you'll be seeing more labels like these that say components made in the USA, assembled in Mexico. Martha Teichner, CBS News, El Paso, Texas.
It is the biggest security clampdown in Japanese history. 30,000 police assigned to the streets of Tokyo for the Western Economic Summit that begins this weekend. That tight security was in evidence today as President Reagan arrived. Security measures so stringent that Japanese police restrained American reporters from approaching President Reagan. First Lady Nancy Reagan went her separate way, flying to Malaysia for dinner at the Prime Minister's residence. She's taking her anti-drug campaign to Malaysia and Thailand before rejoining the president on Monday. Further evidence today of trade frictions between Japan and the West. As he left for the Tokyo summit, West Germany's economic minister said, and I quote, "We are becoming very impatient with Japan's huge trade surplus. Japan must stop protecting its own markets and step up imports," he said. Now Barry Peterson reports Japan says it's hoping to do just that with what it calls an economic plan born in the USA.
Question: American or Japanese? American or Japanese? You can find the American look here, but not the easygoing American lifestyle. The Japanese take pride in a 10-hour, 6-day work week, save 20% of their wages. That is tradition. Now, some Japanese leaders are saying traditions must change. People are being told to work less, save less, take more vacations. In essence, be like Americans. Be good consumers. Good consumers would spend more, and that would make Japan less dependent on selling products in America. And that might trim the huge Japanese trade surplus and the United States trade deficit.
Anything they can do to stimulate domestic demand will help. Some of it will help in the medium and long term, some of it will help in the short term.
The catch is, the Japanese must be less Japanese.
It's like Victorian Japan asking Japan to change from Victorian moral ethics and way of living to more Californian style of living.
But it takes people to make a plan work, and it may take years to change old ways.
It is not easy to implement this plan, but still we have to do. Otherwise, we can't live together with other nations.
A recent CBS News New York Times poll conducted in Japan by the Tokyo Broadcasting System shows a nation aware of its obligations. More than 60% say Japan is a world power with responsibilities to other countries, such as reducing the trade imbalance. More than 70% said America should protect its position as world economic leader, even if that means the Japanese economy would suffer. Prime Minister Nakasone met recently with President Reagan in Washington to explain his plan and won administration support. And what can Americans do to ease the balance of trade? Economists suggest they save more and spend less, take less time off, become more like the Japanese. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Tokyo.
Right now, just about everything you need for your lawn and garden is on sale at Sears. Save $300 on this 10-horsepower Craftsman tractor. This Craftsman 20-inch mower, just $199.99. This dual-control gas grill, just $119.99. And these garden tools are on sale for just $388. Don't miss Sears' gigantic lawn and garden sale.
There's more for your life
in our new century.
At Sears.
I've got osteoarthritis. Good thing there's Anacin.
Doctors recommend Anacin for relief of occasional minor pains of osteoarthritis for hours.
To Anacin, and that takes care of the pain.
Anacin, doctor recommended for arthritis pain relief.
The #1 hit.
How fast can Anbesol relieve toothache pain? Before you can say
Anbesol.
Canker sore pain? Before you can say
Anbesol.
Anbesol relieves minor mouth pain on contact. Anbesol, liquid or gel.
In Austria, former United Nations Secretary General Kurt Waldheim wrapped up his presidential campaign today, the election in Austria just 2 days away. But while the politicking came to an end, Tom Fenton reports the charges against Waldheim's Nazi past did not.
This signature is being used by Kurt Waldheim to win the presidency of his country. Outside Austria, it has made him an international pariah. But here, he's been glibly signing photographs with the same flourish he applied to hundreds of German Army field reports in World War II. Documents and a diary discovered in the U.S. National Archives show that Waldheim was a staff officer for a fanatical general during a 3-year campaign marked by the ruthless murder of thousands of prisoners and the deportation of tens of thousands of Greek Jews. The latest allegations show Waldheim recorded an order from Hitler to shoot Greek prisoners.
Dr. Waldheim is implicated, certainly by knowledge, in various nefarious activities during the Second World War, ranging from deportation of the Jews to the extermination of partisans and deportation of civilians in Greece and Yugoslavia.
Until recently, Waldheim lied about his activities during the war, claiming he spent most of it as a student in Vienna. He still claims he knew nothing of such crimes.
I know that all the allegations are wrong, are completely untrue, therefore they won't do harm to me at all.
Incidents like this, when an Austrian attacked Waldheim and called him a Nazi, have been rare in this campaign. The charges leveled against Waldheim have actually helped increase his lead in the polls. The accusations against Waldheim have exploded the myth that this country was the first victim of Hitler's aggression. The fact is, Austria gave the world Adolf Hitler, and in 1938 welcomed him back with open arms. Waldheim represents a whole generation of Austrians who, to use his words, did their duty as decent soldiers in Hitler's army. Many of the old men gathered on this town square to greet their candidate also have pasts that would not bear close inspection.
There always was and there will be anti-Semitism in Austria, and it's only under a certain cover.
Austria's few thousand remaining Jews have been keeping a low profile after becoming the target of a hate campaign during this election. Waldheim had the air of a winner on the campaign trail in southern Austria, where both anti-Semitism and pro-Waldheim sentiment are strongest. Here, despite, or more likely because of the accusations from the outside world, he was greeted like a hero. He opened the traditional May ball just as smoothly as he has dismissed the charges against him. Tom Fenton, CBS News, Klagenfurt, Austria.
The United States Defense Department said today it will review Libyan television pictures said to show the helmet of Air Force Weapons Systems officer Paul Lawrence, missing and now presumed dead after the U.S. air attacks. Libya says the helmet washed ashore west of Tripoli. Libyan TV also showed a piece of red metal, claimed to be wreckage of a U.S. jet.
In Alamance County, North Carolina, Honda lawnmowers are assembled from the wheels up. Beginning with the Honda overhead valve engine, each precision part is fitted and assembled to exacting tolerances. Then, the final critical step that determines whether a machine will meet the Honda standard. The Clara Johnson test. If Clara pulls and it starts, it's a Honda.
Ship it!
The Honda lawnmower. It's easy to start, or else.
The parents of these kids have very different jobs, but when Dean Witter helps manage their investments, they're all treated the same. Special.
Everybody is somebody at Dean Witter.
A member of the Sears Financial Network.
As your life changes, your needs change. That's why you'll find experts in investments and real estate and insurance together at the Sears Financial Network. Come to a center at Sears or a member office for advice you can trust.
I swear we've been through everything there is. Can't imagine anything the two of us can't do. Through the years, you've never let me down.
Volvo, the car built to get you through the years.
And I'm so glad I stayed right here with you through the years.
Just across the U.S. border in Vancouver, British Columbia today, up to 150,000 people were expected at Expo 86. But it was Prince Charles and Princess Diana who got the new World's Fair off to a royal start, touring some of the exhibits from 54 nations before officially opening the 5.5-month fair. Before it's over, organizers hope for visits from 5 million people. May 2nd, 1986, a day that may go down in history. Terry Drinkwater explains why.
The United States posed for a national portrait today. Photographers all over the country snapped the pictures that will fill a book, a day in the life of America. Early to work on computers in Texas, and early to play, a third fairway in Colorado. 200 award-winning photographers were invited to shoot. They had their own group photo taken in Denver last weekend and then flew away to all 50 states. By dark, they will have taken 250,000 pictures. Only the best 350 will be published. Half the photographers are from abroad, with new perspectives of America. Franco Zecchine is from Italy and usually photographs the camera-shy mafia and its victims. How was it working here today?
Here is all people is very nice. Is no one said no picture.
Plainclothes officers in training. Everywhere, youngsters seem to be crowding into this national family album. The senior subjects, of course, more patient. David Kennerly selected the retired of Hollywood as well as those on the way up. Joy Wolf was in New York.
We're all over the United States today. Today is the day. And I'm working on 42nd Street.
Including both sides of the automat and New York's finest. Because it's spring, there are lots of pictures of lawn mowing from the UN west all across the country. Some foreign cameramen found how open American society is. A Russian photographer was assigned to CBS. Together, all of the images are not just of beautiful things, but of all things about America. Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, Denver.
And that's the CBS Evening News for this Friday. Dan Rather reporting from New York. We'll see you here again Monday. Hope your spring weekend's a good one.
Which cereal has more vitamin nutrition than any other? Kellogg's Product 19 cereal. But you'd never guess.
Oh.
Because Product 19 vitamins are flaky, bumpy, crispy, crunchy. And taste so good. Product 19 goodness comes from corn, oats, wheat, and rice.
Delicious.
Kellogg's Product 19.
Flaky.
Bumpy.
Crispy. Crunchy.
Mmm. Tasty vitamins.
Now there's an antacid that's ideal for us women, New Calcitrel. It not only neutralizes more acid than Malox Plus or regular Mylanta, it gives us even more calcium than Tums. New Calcitrel. It's the ideal antacid for women.
We asked 1,000 doctors if stranded on an island, which would they want? Tylenol, extra strength Tylenol, Advil, or Bayer? More doctors chose Bayer, nearly 2 to 1 over extra strength Tylenol. Bayer, the wonder drug that works wonders.
In a society obsessed with staying young, consider for a moment something that can help you grow older. A diet low in saturated fats and cholesterol. Fleischmann's margarines are made from 100% pure corn oil. They're low in saturated fats and have no cholesterol. And Fleischmann's taste good. Fleischmann's, a way of life.
Daily News calls Maria Shriver adept at fielding a wide range of challenges. Rediscover the CBS Morning News.
Tonight on our news,